Hey there, Bagelites. This is Ed, and welcome back to another edition of Bagel and Booze. We've hit November. It's Thanksgiving time. Weather's starting to finally get colder after we had a false fall of like 80-some degrees right before Halloween. So for today's beer review, we've got something that will fit the bill perfectly to go for the colder weather. It's actually brewed, comes from a style of cold weather brewing. Cold weather region, I should say. We'll go ahead and obviously give it the old taste test, sniff test, and find out if it will chug. We might even get a the more you know moment out of it. Of course we will. But before we do that, make sure you click that subscribe button so you can stay up to date for the latest beer reviews. Let's go ahead and get the Beercam fired up so we can figure out what beer we are drinking for today's review. Today's beer comes to us out of the style comes from the cold region, fits in perfectly with the colder weathers that we're starting to get here as we approach into the end of fall and get into wintertime. And what we have for today is coming out from Charles Towne Fermentory, which is located in Charleston, South Carolina. This is their Vistula Baltic Porter, which clocks in at 7.5 ABV, and the name itself takes it right from the Baltic region, with Vistula being the largest river in Poland, and it's the 9th largest river in Europe. So checking this beer out on the brewer's website, because there's really not much information about it on the can itself. You should get a little bit of information about what to expect in flavors, taste, smells, potentially. Nothing of the sort on this, so we had to go to the brewer website, and checking it out there, it states that it's going to have notes of lightly toasted cocoa nibs, hint of molasses sweetness, and vanilla bean, leading to a silky mouthfeel and dry finish. So we'll see if we get that to come through in either the sniff test or the flavor profile of the taste test. No clue, or we're just left high and dry. But it's not a bagel and booze without the more you know moment. Yeah, I guess I could have did stuff on the river, the name of the beer, but we're going to do it on the beer style, Baltic Porter, because I didn't really know much on the style of the beer. I guess should educate a little bit on beer styles here on Bagel and Booze. It would make sense to do that. But in any event, with that, I figured look it up and kind of figure out what makes it a Baltic Porter, or is it just another thing of quote-unquote a Russian Imperial Stout. Baltic Porters, specifically porter beer, are named for the 18th century English porters. These porters were individuals that worked the city streets and dockyards, and the porter itself is basically a take on English brown ale that's been aged for 6 months and heavily hopped. And this characteristically deep brown beer was preferred drink of these individuals. Porters themselves are going to be one of the first beer styles to be enjoyed worldwide, eventually finding its way to the countries of the Baltic Sea. We wouldn't have Baltic Porter without it making it there. And as it was customary, it was common for local brewers to adapt recipes to utilize local ingredients, give it their own flair, make it something their own with that. The Baltic region was definitely no different, and brewers here would use lager yeast and continental hops. Traditionally, the beer itself, this porter style, is cold fermented and cold lager. The bottom fermenting lager yeast fares better in the colder climates than the English ale yeast, which is definitely more warm weather friendly. This beer style could have just simply remained, something that kind of was brewed here and there within the region, while English imports still continued to come in, but that's not the case. Along comes the Napoleonic Wars, and specifically Napoleon, who in 1806 institutes the Continental Blockade, which, if you need a little history refresher, was when he basically blockaded all English imports into the European mainland. So you got people that want porters, they want to drink it, they like the style, but they can no longer get the imports from England. So to make ends meet, breweries start popping up. The popularity of this style, because of the choice of local ingredients, starts to take hold and really grows in popularity. Even with the blockade coming down, breweries still continue to pop up. So the beer itself, definitely through all this tinkering and what have you, develops into its own distinctive style of beer that bears its name of the region for where it's brewed and where it was gained popularity. Surprise, surprise. Baltic Porters would fall out of fashion in a reverse trend in the 1900s, especially here in the United States after World War II, mainly in response to the Cold War. You could probably figure out why. The Iron Curtain. Suffice it to say, after the fall of the Iron Curtain, we start to see this style of beer start to regain its popularity here in the United States, with it really kind of taking off in popularity in the last 10 to 20 years. Start to see more and more of this style beer start to surface here from brewers stateside. Also, I guess if you want a little pairing information, Baltic Porters will pair very well with hearty foods such as venison, barbecued and smoked meats, grilled sausages, hamburgers, or even poultry, goose, and other sorted poultry. The beer itself also does really well with rich and decadent desserts like chocolate cake, coffee cake, although I wouldn't really consider that decadent. I don't know. Cheesecake, there you go. And pairs well with apple and pecan pie. Sounds like you got the start of a great pairing for Thanksgiving dinner, since it goes well with poultry and goes well with apple and pecan pie. So there you go. There's your The More You Know moment. You learned a little something about Baltic Porters. I learned a little something about Baltic Porters. So with that, let's get the beer cracked open, sniff tested, taste tested, and chug tested.
I drink and I know things.
So we got everything all poured down. As you can kind of see, it sets up a very dark color that's in here, as I would expect out of my porters and stouts and everything else. So far, can't see through it. It's reflecting the light back into the webcam, making it a little difficult for the beer cam to try to focus in. Okay, so beer cam's returned to normal, and we'll go ahead and give this the old sniff test, see if we get any of those flavor profiles we talked about in the intro, if they come through. Right off of the bat, get that dark roasted flavor, smell that's coming in. Again, I don't know why I say flavor when I'm talking smells. I can't smell flavor. If I could, I'd be a real special person. But as we would kind of expect out of this, we do get that dark roasted flavor that comes through. God, again, we haven't tasted it. Smell that comes through. Maybe I should stop drinking before I do my beer reviews. That might help. But let's give it the taste test and find out what we get. So off the bat, it's a good, it's kind of robust flavor that's there. Definitely getting that, not really getting an over chocolate tone, getting more, definitely, I'm liking it to coffee. I guess coming off of the roasted cocoa nibs that they talked about, it would line up in there. Definitely as it sits there and lingers, there's more to me of a coffee flavor than of a chocolate flavor. Not really getting any vanilla. We'll give it another swig there. See if we get something different, because like we with our beer last week, as we continued to drink it, we got much more different profile coming through. But no, I'm just not really tasting that vanilla come through. It's fallen a little flat for me. They talked about kind of a smooth silkiness to this. I'm not seeing it. Don't get me wrong. It is a smooth beer, but it's not like, what I would liken to drinking a milk stout where, and I know they're not the same beer styles, but, when you promise that it's a silky mouthfeel, I kind of would like something of that. It is run of the mill, middle of the road. So I guess we could chalk that up to, a smooth taste. We'll give it another. I'm hoping maybe third time's the charm. We might get something a little bit different, but no, if anything, it's not intensifying. It's actually going down a little bit, in all honesty. I kind of want it more, especially for this style. Maybe I'll have to try out some other Baltic Porters. Maybe not the best representation here that we get with that. Obviously, there's winners and losers in all categories, and unfortunately, I think with this one, it's not really doing anything for me. It's okay. It's kind of middle of the road. It's not wowing me. I'm not super liking it. I guess, beer rating, we'll give this like a 2.5. I'm trying maybe one last ditch effort to see if it changes the rating at all, but no, it just kind of falls flat for me. It just doesn't do anything. It's there. It's a beer. It's a porter. It's dark beer. It's got the roasted, warm feel to it, but that's about it. It's not really wowing me. Not hating it. Definitely not really liking it. So we'll stick with the 2.5 on this. So I'm usually a dark beer fan. I guess we missed the mark on this one. So with that, I guess let's get into finding out if it will chug. So it'll be interesting to see with this one when we go to the chug test to see if we get something different as we've had in other beers in the past. We get sometimes a more intense flavor comes through, something changes. Maybe it'll not warrant the 2.5. Maybe we'll go up to a 3. Maybe we'll go up to a 3.5. I'm not having high hopes, but maybe it'll get worse on the roasted flavor that's there. So I guess there's only one way to find out. Bottoms up. It's chugging time. It will chug. Out of a concerted effort, it will chug. Got a little difficult there at the end. Yeah, I'm getting more of kind of that roast flavor coming through. Definitely not seeing any of that, that the vanilla, the molasses, the sweetness. I think that's what's missing for me. Maybe if there was a bit more of that, it would kind of change the rating on it. But as it sits right now, it's just, I got a whole mouthful of kind of, I guess it would be like eating coffee roast, chocolate, cocoa roasted beans, what have you, which I did do when I was younger, so I do know what that flavor. It's not like eating hops. That was a bad decision, but yeah, this one just misses the mark. Again, like I said, I'm a big fan of stouts and porters, especially at this time of year. And this one, I can't recommend it. Maybe you'll find it a little bit different, but for me, this one just, it's a swing and a miss. So, I guess, yeah, I feel a little disappointed. But it is what it is. So with that, I'm done. We're done. This is done. And I thank you again for tuning in to another edition of Bagel and Booze. And hopefully next review, we get something a little bit better to get us back in good graces. Thanks all, and we'll catch you later.